What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of news to go over here. And the first is some exciting news for hot hatchback fans because Mini has teased the new 2020 Mini John Cooper Works GP. And this is going to be coming sometime this year. And they went as far as to say it'll have over 300 horsepower. And so you can see there it looks to have a huge rear wing, similar to the concept one that we saw in 2017. And here's some pictures of that concept vehicle. Again, it'll probably be toned down a decent amount, but with how large that wing is on the teaser for the real one, you could have a lot of these characteristics. And so as far as, that number, over 300 horsepower, Autoblog, their best guess, which seems to be the most likely thing, is that it's going to be using the same motor from the X2 M35i, which is the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that does 306 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. And so that would give it some very impressive numbers to compete with stuff like the Civic Type R, and obviously it would be much more expensive, so it wouldn't really be a competitor to any hot hatchbacks because this will probably easily be 10 grand more expensive. Not only just because it's a Mini and they're extremely high priced to begin with, but also because Mini says they're only making 3,000 of these. So if you can even get your hands on one, there might be markups or you want to, whatever. It's going to be expensive for sure. So probably be the most expensive hot hatchback ever, but seems to be pretty sweet as well. And so the timing of this makes me think this is going to be shown at the Geneva Motor Show, but they didn't specifically say that in the press release. So I'm not sure exactly when this is supposed to debut, but I'm guessing we'll see it next month. Speaking of BMW though, one thing they did reveal early here is the 2020 X3M and X4M. So before there was just the M40i versions, now we have the full-on M versions, and you can see it's a little bit sportier. You have the sportier bumpers, and you got the spoilers in the back and stuff to kind of give it a little bit of a visual, cue that this is the top dog. They all come with 20-inch wheels standard, but 21s are optional. It also debuts the new S58 engine, which is this twin-turbo 3-liter straight 6, and it's loosely based on the B58, which is the motor in the the 3 Series, and now even like the Supra and stuff. But this S58 version has a forged crankshaft, closed deck crankcase, and has increased bore and shortened stroke. So this all allows it to have a high 7,300 RPM redline, which should make it a pretty good screamer. And horsepower depends on whether you go for the regular or the competition version. But for the regular version of this motor, it does 473 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque. The competition version gets 30 more horsepower for 503 total. And that's mostly just thanks to higher boost from the turbos. It's the same turbos. It also has the same torque as the non-competition version, the 442 pound-feet. Top speed is limited to 155, but the limiter can be raised to 174 or 177 if you're going for the competition version. 0 to 60 is 4.1 seconds for the regular one, and it's 4 flat for the competition. So 4 seconds 0 to 60 for these small SUVs. Pretty impressive stuff. But it is heavy. So the X3M weighs 4,620 pounds. The X4M is only 30 pounds lighter than that. But so I mean, 4,600 pounds for one of these smaller SUVs. Whenever the standard versions of these vehicles, the standard X3 I think weighs 4,100 pounds. So you're talking about like 500 pounds more. Crazy. Anyway, it also has the ZF8 speed and the all-wheel drive system from the M5, but there is no rear-wheel drive mode in this one. So the all-wheel drive, they say, is rear bias, so you can hang the tail out and stuff if you want by turning everything off and stuff. And to haul that stuff down to a stop, it has 4-piston front brake calipers. They aren't offering carbon ceramics because they say that people that buy these SUVs don't take them to the track, so they don't need carbon ceramics. I would probably agree. And so they do get M-tuned adaptive suspension setups and active rear differentials as standard as well. The interior gets many elements that are similar to the M5, including the digital gauges, which are very cool looking. Unique steering wheel there with the cool red M buttons and the very beefy rim, and then it's got a sportier gear shifter and sportier seats, all those types of normal things. And so anyway, they're saying these are going to be launching on July 13th with the X3M starting at $69,900. which funny enough is exactly the same price to the dollar as the Mercedes GLC 63. Now with the 63 Mercedes, you actually get the twin turbo V8 versus this, having the inline six still. So it just comes down to personal preference, but I personally think I'd rather have a twin turbo V8 for that money, and you have very similar horsepower and stuff as well. Anyway, the X4M is going to be starting a few grand more at $73,400. And then if you want the competition package for either of those, that adds another $7,000 for just 30 extra horsepower. I don't know if that's worth it at all. I mean, that's quite the jump. But anyway, interesting to see that. BMW's in-house tuner Alpina has revealed a vehicle this week, the 2020 B7. This is based on the new 7 Series. They've only shown us 4 pictures of it here, but it's the usual Alpina treatment where it has the more aggressive bumpers and the classic multi-spoke wheels they always have. It uses a modified version of the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 from the regular 7 Series, but it's pumped up so it does 600 horsepower now, 590 pound-feet of torque. So that's the same horsepower actually as the twin-turbo V12 M760i version of the regular 7 Series. So this is kind of challenging the other BMW, which is kind of strange that they're kind of pitting themselves against each other. Anyway, so this does, the V12 though from BMW does have an extra 37 more pound-feet of torque. So you get a little more low-end grunt there with the V12, obviously. But still, that Alpina is going to be quick. They actually removed the usual 155 mile per hour limiter as well, which I don't think BMW lets you do. Or if they do, it's still not quite as extreme as this, because they're claiming a top speed of 205 miles per hour for this Alpina B7, which technically allows them to claim the fastest sedan in the world. So, pretty wild stuff. And it's also pretty quick 0 to 60. It's 0.1 second faster than the V12 version 2. So another slap in the face of the top dog. Doing 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds versus 3.6. And on top of all that, it's $18,000 cheaper than the twin-turbo V12 M760i. So again, I don't know who at BMW approved this kind of mutiny within BMW, but it's interesting. So yeah, these Alpina ones are going to be starting at $142,695 versus the V12's $160,395. And so yeah, I mean, I guess the only people that would really pick the V12 are people who don't like the Alpina's looks, or you just want to have those extra cylinders and the bragging rights of that, I guess. But it's going to be a heavier nose, so it's not going to handle as well, and it's actually slower. So pretty crazy stuff there. I mean, it's awesome BMW offers the V12 still, but they should have done more to the M760i version if you're going to have, especially if they have the Alpina that's going to be so close in performance. Anyway, these are going to be available in the fall, and BMW has announced pricing for the regular 7 Series as well for 2020 here, and so they're going to be starting at about $2,800 more than last year's model, and so they start at $87,445, including destination, and that's for a rear-wheel drive 740i version. And like I said, the V12 version goes all the way up to $160, so nearly double the price for the top dog version. And so it does get some nice new features, even though it's $2,800 more expensive than last year. You get the new digital gauges, the more powerful engines, and all the other little refinements around the vehicle. And I'm sure people spending that much money aren't going to care very much anyway, as far as the increase in price. And anyway, those are going to be arriving in April, so you will be able to get one of those sooner than the Alpina, which is coming in the fall. But anyway, interesting to see that. Land Rover has also revealed the new Range Rover Sport HST this week, and so it debuts a brand new engine for them. It's this Ingenium 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine, which it's been rumored for a long time that Jaguar and Land Rover are going to be getting an inline 6 again, and this is very awesome, especially considering Jaguar's roots and Land Rover's as well. And so kind of takes them back to those times, but this is a far cry from those old inline 6s, because this new one has both a turbo and an electric supercharger on it, and they say that supercharger spools up to 120,000 RPMs in half a second, which completely eliminates turbo lag according to them, and so that's pretty wild. It also is paired up with a 48-volt mild hybrid system that can also give some boost for acceleration as well as probably enhanced efficiency, but there weren't any details given about that whole electrical system really. But altogether they say it provides 394 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque, which might not sound like much, but remember this is the very first iteration of this engine, and with tuning and stuff, I'm sure it can go way higher than that. But I think the main target, this was supposed to be just slightly more than the regular supercharged V6 that you see in all the Range Rovers and Jags and stuff. And so, although they didn't announce they're killing off that engine yet, they're going to kill this engine off. They're going to kill off the supercharged V6. It's old. It's not as efficient. It sounds amazing, especially in the F-Type and stuff, but it sounds like they're going to be going for this inline six, which could sound very good as well, although you have the muffling of the turbo instead of just having the raw supercharged sound. But you still at least have an electric supercharger. Maybe, I don't know if that'll whine, but maybe that could have some cool sounds to go along with it. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's starting off in the Range Rover Sport here, and it's just for this HST model for now, but I'm sure it'll spread to the other Range Rovers, and of course probably go on to Jags as well. And if the F-Type in its current generation lives long enough, this might even be transplanted into there as soon as next 2021 model year or something. We'll have to wait and see for that. If nothing else, probably next gen F-Type, if they decide to keep Jag from being completely electrified, which there are rumors that Jag's going to go full EV with everything, including the F-Type, and just make it a silent sports car. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, it's still going to be a strong performer, this inline six. 0 to 60, 5.9 seconds for that Range Rover. Top speed of 140. No pricing yet, but they say they're going to be showing and revealing more at the New York Auto Show in April. Toyota has revealed the Supra TRD Performance Line concept this week, which is basically just showing off the TRD accessories catalog. Not quite as awesome as we were hoping. The teaser image had some huge spoiler in the back of it, but this one doesn't have any kind of big spoiler. It's just mostly visual changes that are mostly carbon fiber. They include a front spoiler, side skirt, door garnish, rear spoiler, and diffuser spats, all in carbon fiber there. And then TRD also it says they're going to have these 19-inch wheels are going to be available. They're the same size as the 19s that are currently offered on the standard Supras, but these ones are just a different design, and they're also forged like the ones on the stock Supra. But they do say it's the TRD here that all these parts actually do give noticeable performance improvements to the car's stability and downforce. So they're functional, but mostly just for those who want to dress up their Supras before the aftermarket gets a chance to make stuff. There you go. And so they didn't announce when these parts will be available or anything. It's just a concept for now, but I would expect to see these available, relatively soon after the launch of the Supra. Also, Toyota has shown a new special edition version of the 86 this week that's for Japan only, but it's called the British Green Limited Edition. And so it looks awesome to me, of course, considering it's very similar in color to my Bullet. And so I might be biased, but I think this is one of the best looking 86s yet. And so in addition to the color, you can see it gets these bronze wheels as well, and it looks pretty good. It also has the same upgraded package that we have here in the States with the red Brembos, the Sachs dampers. The interior, though, on this one is unique and gets this more luxurious looking tan and black seat arrangement, although they're only leatherette. It also has some contrast stitching, and strangely, it doesn't come with a radio, which is kind of weird considering the more luxurious look of the interior. Has a delete plate there instead, but that's very easy to put in your own. I don't know if it's wired for speakers still or not, but if it's just a head unit and a couple of speakers, that's pretty easy to put in. But anyway, too bad it's not coming to the US, because that would certainly, like I said, be my favorite edition if it was here. Also, there's lots of vehicles that were teased for the Geneva Motor Show coming up next month. And so first off, Honda has shown the dashboard here for the Urban EV prototype, which is basically a production vehicle, but they might have one or two tiny tweaks. And so in typical Honda fashion, they have the prototype and then the production version like a month later, which is identical. So basically, we're going to be seeing the production version version here at Geneva, and the interior looks basically production ready as well, although that screen is huge. But I mean, the menus and stuff are very similar to what we see in the current screens in Hondas and stuff, just much larger. And the on-screen image there also shows it's going to be a four-door, which we already knew from spy photos, but it looks to be keeping the retro looks of the concept and looks to be still very cool looking. But supposedly these are rumored to be starting production in the middle of this year, actually, so coming very soon. And so everyone keeps saying this isn't coming to the States, but I would love to talk to someone at Honda as to why. I really hope that they're just keeping it a secret and it does come to the States here, because I mean, it seems like Americans love EVs just as much as the rest of the world so far, and so I think it would be a no-brainer to bring it here. But we'll have to wait and see. Honda's also going to be showing this little concept called the Tomo, and so it's based on the same EV platform as the Urban EV, but it's a little smaller. This vehicle is roughly about the size of a Miata, maybe slightly bigger, but it has this little truck bed in the back. It seems to be like covered by glass at certain times in the sketches. Again, these are just teaser sketches. We'll see the real vehicle in a few weeks. But this was produced in cooperation with an Italian Design Institute and 13 of their students that Honda works with. And so very cool. This is a student design thing, and looking forward to seeing more of that. Audi has also shown some teaser images here for the Q4 E-Tron they're going to be showing at Geneva, as this is basically going to be a sportier version of the Q3, but the E-Tron naming means it's going to be the EV version of that vehicle. So it's going to get a sportier interior as well. It looks, according to these sketches at least, it looks pretty similar to the E-Tron GT concept. Anyway, the normal Q4 should be coming pretty soon, and then the EV version they're saying could come to markets by the end of next year. So end of 2020 is what they're saying, but we'll get more info and real pictures of that at Geneva. Another vehicle was teased. Volkswagen has teased the T-Roc R, which they'll be bringing to the show, and the T-Roc is a small SUV that we don't get here in the States. I don't know why, considering Volkswagen's only offering for those who want a small crossover is the last gen Tiguan, which they call the Tiguan Limited, and it's kind of embarrassing they're continuing to sell it. I don't know why they don't just bring the T-Roc over. Anyway, though, for this R version that was teased, it could be either getting the GTI motor or the Golf R engine, but they're not sure which way it's going to go. Because in Europe, the top version only has 190 horsepower, so even the GTI motor with 228 would be a nice bump. But maybe to stay in line with R, they would keep the same engine as the Golf R. We'll have to wait and see, but again, we'll have more on that at Geneva. Mitsubishi has shown a few real images here of the 2020 refresh for the Outlander Sport that's going to be debuting in Geneva. And so, it's borrowing some looks from the Eclipse Cross up front there. Out back, there's some new tail lamps, which are reminiscent of some other manufacturers, but is new here to Mitsubishi. The interior is mostly the same, but they did add a larger screen now, so it's 1 inch larger at 8 inches versus the 7-inch screen it had before. The engines are most likely going to be completely unchanged as well, but we'll wait for more details on that next month. And last week, Mazda had teased their Geneva debut, which is going to be a new crossover, and I covered that in last week's video. But we have a follow-up story on this. So at the Chicago Auto Show last week, Automotive News talked with Mazda North America's CEO, who said that in addition to that crossover that they teased, Mazda is also working on a new crossover SUV which is exclusively designed for the North American market. Which to me means it's going to be something huge, because anytime they say this is developed for the North American market, it's always like a massive vehicle or some vehicle that's way larger than it used to be, because Americans like big vehicles. And so based off of that, my guess is that it's either going to be the return of the CX-7 to be kind of something in between the CX-5 and a larger next-gen CX-9 or something, or I'm even going so far as to guess this maybe could be like a CX-10 or something, because how do you go on from the CX-9? I guess just go up to the 10. So it could be that. Another possibility is it could potentially be like a CX-4 or a CX-6 to kind of be like a coupe or sportier version of either the CX-5 or the CX-3 possibly. possibly, but that's just, again, total guesses. Whatever this is that's coming, it's a ways off because the CEO said that it's going to be built at the new Alabama plant, and they're going to be starting production of it there in mid-2021. So we're roughly, a little over 2.5 years away from even this thing starting production. So nothing going to happen super immediately, but interesting to hear they're working on something else. And the last Geneva story this week is a rumor about a new Bugatti that might be showing up at the show. So Supercar blog, as well as an Instagram page for the Supercar collector Chris Singh, both are reporting that an $18 million one-off Bugatti was commissioned by the former chairman of Volkswagen Group, who got out right before Dieselgate. So I'm guessing he's not in jail and has money still, and so he, I guess, is able to afford something this insane. His name is Dr. Ferdinand Peisch, and he's the grandson of Ferdinand Porsche. So I guess that explains the money as well. But anyway, if true, this would be the most expensive new car ever made, and would probably be something completely unique because, at that price level, it wouldn't be justified if it was just a special edition of a Chiron, even if it was solid gold. I mean, it's got to be something completely unique. There's rumors of possibly a four-door vehicle based on the Chiron or something. We'll have to wait and see, but anyway, I will just see what comes next month at Geneva. Should be the star of the show, whatever it is, if it is in fact real. For some normal stuff, but still very luxurious, Bentley has debuted the 2020 Bentayga Speed, and so like other speed trims in the past, this is just the fastest version of the model. And so this Bentayga has 626 horsepower now, 664 pound-feet of torque, which is 26 more horsepower than the normal W12 version of the Bentayga, but the same amount of torque. It also has a 3 mile per hour higher top speed, so that's now 190 miles per hour for the top speed, which they claim is the fastest SUV. But interestingly, under the same parent company, Lamborghini, the Urus, actually is still faster, at least with 0 to 60 times and stuff, and they have the same top speed, the Urus and this Bentayga Speed. The 0 to 60 for the Bentayga Speed, by the way, is 0.2 seconds faster now than the regular Bentayga W12, so now it's a 3.9 seconds 0 to 60. It also gets a louder exhaust, a sportier sport mode, darker headlights and taillights and grille, as well as a unique rear spoiler you can see there, and then there's also some unique wheels that are specific to the Speed version. Alcantara is actually available for the interior, believe it or not, but I don't know why you would want Alcantara in a vehicle like that. They say leather is a free upgrade, so yeah, you have to really be into Alcantara to want it in your Bentley. But anyway, no price yet, but it'll definitely be more than the $229,000 for a normal top dog Bentayga. So anyway, ordering is going to be opening now, with cars being delivered here in the United States in the early fall. So interesting to see that. Maserati has a little story here this week. So they issued a statement talking about their production plans. They're going to be upgrading and changing their Modena production line starting this fall. And so that's where the GranTurismo is built. And so if they're changing that line, that means they're going to stop GranTurismo production by the fall, if not sooner. And so they're saying that, I guess, they realize that's the implication, but they said that a totally new model, a characteristically Maserati sports car, will be entering pre-series production in the first half of 2020. So this is most likely the Alfieri we had a concept years ago, and we thought it was going to come much sooner than it is, but first half of 2020 is still pretty quick, and so that'll be good. And there's supposed to be, normal versions and then also an electric version coming as well. But anyway, so you maybe get a new Maserati sports car here next year. That sounds exciting. So interesting to see that. Also, a high-end vehicle that was spied recently was the next-gen version of the Rolls-Royce Ghost. And so from the outside, it looks basically like the current Ghost, and that's kind of Rolls-Royce's thing, is sticking with very conservative classic styling that doesn't look outdated very quickly, but it does have a little bit of a difference. The main difference that we can see here is the rear window area, which is a lot more sloping, less boxy than the current Ghost, and so give it a little bit of a swoopier coupe-like look, although it still is very boxy and blocky. But Just a little bit of a change there. That's really the biggest change. Of course, it's going to have all new headlights, taillights, all the body panels will probably be all new, just very slightly tweaked. The interior will get, all kinds of new improvements and, be right in line with what you see in the Cullinan and stuff like that, I'm sure. But yeah, there wasn't any kind of model year attached to this as to when it's coming, but I'm assuming it looks pretty far along. I'm guessing we'll be seeing it sometime this year. But for some more affordable car news here, another vehicle that was spied this week was Ford was spied testing the 2020 Escape, and it has basically no camo. I mean, all the stuff that you would camouflage isn't covered. The headlights, the taillights, everything is very easy to see, very clear. And we've seen the outside of this before, but this time we get to see the interior for the first time, and that appears to be nearly identical to the Focus, the new Focus that we don't get here in the States anymore, the one that the rest of the world is currently enjoying, while we have the ancient old version, which is on its way to the grave. So anyway, the interesting thing to note here about this interior, in addition to it just being pretty nice, the new Focus interior is a nice improvement, so I think it looks good. But interestingly, on the gauge cluster there, you can see that it shows kilowatts for battery output and stuff in the place of where you would normally see a normal tachometer. And that's kind of confusing to me. Now, my spy photographer Brian Williams is claiming this is the hybrid version, and that's why you have that. But even in plug-in hybrids, you never have that large of a dominant, gauge showing you battery output. Usually is battery output blended with, an RPM gauge or something like that, having a normal tach. So this just showing a power output there honestly makes me think this is a full EV version. I don't think anyone's expecting Ford to have a full EV version. I don't think there's any speculation about it. That's just my hunch, and I could be completely wrong and way off. But considering we have Tesla coming out the Model Y and stuff, and we know Ford already has the electric stuff. They're working on that Mach-E Mustang thing. We know there's electric F-150s coming. That's been confirmed and already in testing. And we also know that Ford has a partnership with Volkswagen now that will most likely lead to them licensing the MEB platform. Now, this might be, again, way too soon to put that stuff in the Escape, but there might be some type of EV version of the Escape here, and maybe that won't be available at launch, but maybe eventually. We'll have to wait and see. That's just my hunch. But regardless, I'm sure the normal Escape we'll be seeing at the New York Auto Show here in April is my best guess on that, considering how far along it is. But anyway, interesting to see those spy pictures. Speaking of EVs, though, the 2020 Kia Soul EV got its EPA rating this week for electric range, and so it's going to have 243 miles of range, and so that's from that same 64 kilowatt hour battery that you also see in the Niro EV, like I just reviewed, and also in the Kona electric. And so the Niro does 239 miles of range on the same battery pack, which is kind of strange considering the Soul is way more boxy and less aerodynamic than the Niro, so I'm not sure why that's the case. The Kona is still the king, though, with 258 miles of range from that same battery pack. So anyway, interesting to see that difference in range. I'm just really shocked it's more than the Niro. Anyway, they also said the fuel economy numbers for the regular gas version of the Soul. And so with that new 2-liter motor from the Forte that's a lot more efficient, along with that new CVT, that combo allows the Soul to now get 29 mpg in the city, 35 on the highway, and 31 combined, which again is very impressive for a vehicle that's very blocky. And then if you go for the 1.6-liter turbo motor with its 201 horsepower, you'll still get 27 mpg in the city, 32 on the highway, and 29 combined, which is, again, a very respectable number. But that CVT is definitely helping the 2-liter to get the best economy there. That 1.6 turbo, you still are forced to get the DCT dual clutch transmission in that. Anyway, these are going to be in dealers in the first half of this year, including the EV version, I believe. So anyway, cool to see that. And the last story this week is from Tesla. And so there's two little updates they're applying to all their vehicles this week. And the first is a new dog mode that they have debuted. And so this dog mode allows the car's climate control to stay on after you get out of your vehicle and lock it. And then it will clearly display on the center screen the current temperature in very large font front, as well as a message saying the dogs are fine and the owner will be back to their vehicle soon. And so that's to deter people from being like, oh, these dogs are dying, let me smash your windows and get them out of there. So hopefully the text is large enough, or people pay attention enough to look at it before they just start smashing Tesla owners' windows. We'll have to wait and see. But I think that's a very smart update, and something that recently has become more and more of an issue, and people just leave their vehicles on. But with the Tesla, being able to just have that run indefinitely with that huge battery pack and stuff, it's not a huge drain to have that on for a few extra minutes. So very cool feature there. The other feature that they've rolled out here is Sentry mode. And so Sentry, is like a guard. And so this mode, it has to be enabled every time the driver gets out of the vehicle. So you have to, whenever you're turning off your Tesla, you have to actually say, yes, I want it to monitor my surroundings. And so that's a little bit of a pain that it's not just a standard thing it always does. I guess that would just drain battery life too much if it did. But anyway, whenever you do enable this, it continuously monitors the environment around the car with its array of cameras, and it's kind of in a standby mode, kind of just watching everything. And if a minimal threat is detected, which Tesla gives the example of someone leaning on the car, for example, it can sense that, and then the car will go into an alert state, which displays a message on the screen saying that the cameras are recording. And I guess makes it very obvious so that, if someone's being annoying, then it'll let you know. But if it senses something more severe, like a window breaking or something more violent like that, it goes into an alarm mode, which sets off the car alarm, like most vehicles do, nothing there. But in typical Tesla fashion, it goes one step further. The screen gets super bright to try and blind people, I guess, and it also plays music at max volume from the stereo. One, wouldn't that hurt the stereo? And two, what music is it playing? It could be something could be a very comical scene depending on what music I guess the owner has or what it chooses to play. I have no clue. I'd love more details as far as what it would actually play, but I thought that was actually kind of amusing whenever I read that. But it would be very effective. In addition to the alarm, having music blasting and having the screen super bright and everything going off crazy, that would be pretty funny. And hopefully very effective. And then also, regardless of whatever happens, whether it's a mild thing or a serious thing like that, the vehicle will alert the owner through the Tesla app that something is happening, so the owner knows. And then the owner can also, after the event has happened, they can insert a USB drive to download a recording of what happened. So again, you can have all the proof you need to do whatever you need to do with it. So pretty interesting stuff there, and I mean very handy. I mean the Sentry mode though, I kind of wish they did that all the time, because you never know when you're going to need it unless you're parking in an area where you're concerned about your vehicle's safety. But otherwise, sometimes things happen when you least expect it. So it's kind of a bummer this doesn't do it all the time, but I'm guessing it's a battery drain issue. Maybe in the future they'll have a mode that allows it to be on all the time. We'll have to see. But anyway, very cool for Tesla there. They have their ups and downs, but they have some really cool stuff they introduce every once in a while, and this is certainly one of them. So anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.